Right, hello, welcome to episode something, 20 something, I forget, of the CPRW podcast. My name's Colin. I do Colin's Punk Rock World and CPRW Records. Before we crack on, I want to do a quick thank you to the kind gentleman at Till the Fest who said some lovely words about the podcast to us. I'm a bit worried I was a bit awkward and maybe rude because I'm really, really shit like receiving praise, but I really appreciated the nice words. So if you're listening, thank you very much. That was really kind of you. So today I am joined by a personal hero of mine in Derrick Johnston of Make That a Take Records and Uniforms. They Make That a Take Records is a record label that's based in Dundee and puts out loads of great music from loads of Scottish bands and bands from further afield as well. And they also put on loads of gigs at Conroy's basement. Yeah. And he also performs as acoustically as Tragical History Tour. He's a very, very hardworking and busy man and super, super dedicated to the punk rock cause. And I'm just a privilege to have him on here and have a chat today. Hi, Derrick.
Hi, Colin. I'm a little embarrassed by your glowing introduction. I hope that I can do such kindness justice. Very much appreciate being on here. Thank you very much for having me. And I guess it's quite an exciting time insofar as things are reopening and we're beginning to delve back into the punk rock world and the world of quote unquote normality and engaging with humankind once again.
It's like I went to the Burnt Tapes show on the weekend. Like it was their big comeback gig, and I was kind of thinking like it's kind of nice like all these bands are having like comeback gigs because it is sort of bringing people together again, and it's just everyone's really up for it, and there's sort of no like okay it's another gig whatever. It's like yes it's a gig and it's exciting. So it's like that's like, I mean, obviously the pandemic has been absolutely horrific in every way imaginable, but this is something quite nice that's now coming out at the end of it. People are like, they've realized what they've missed basically and how like special being able to go to gigs and see people perform and be in that environment is. So
I would agree, sharing that experience, especially when we've been isolated from one another for so long, and the trepidation about being back in small, enclosed, sweaty basements and back rooms and punk rock venues. Yes, that's one thing that I'm very thankful to the wider punk rock community for is the willingness to engage with being mindful and trying to take care of everybody and being safe and bringing the ruckus in a mindful fashion where we can all enjoy it together.
Yeah, definitely. Like I sort of thought like way back when it all started that it would seem to be the punks that were the ones who really were like, no, we've got to shut this down now. We can't shouldn't put on shows. Which when you sort of think punk is supposed to be against the establishment and like it really showed that no punks are the most empathetic people and to be honest, the best people. And so it's good to now see. Go on.
I think that's part of the community thing, you know, whilst, I mean, I don't want to talk for anybody else. I can only ever talk for myself. But the idea that punk is supposed to be anti-establishment or whatever, there's also a school of punk that's almost anti-logic for the sake of being contrarian, and there are differences. There's a world of difference between a factual conspiracy of money laundering and contract hijacking and nepotism throughout the government and the realm of finance and corporations and whatever, and public health. And I mean, while everybody will come to their own conclusions about what is or what is not, or what should not be, if we're in the business of risk management and taking care of people, then decentering one's self is an important part of it. And if we're not looking to spread an airborne respiratory virus, then taking steps towards safety in enclosed spaces is sensible. And whether that means no shows or masking up at shows or limited attendance to shows, the well-being of the wider populace in the community is more important than the gratification of one's ego or the exercise of one's quote-unquote liberty, because there is no freedom unless we are all free. So a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, and if we have immunocompromised persons in our community, and their protection and safety comes before the egoic needs of self-styled rebels.
Absolutely. So you've had some shows back at Conroy's now, haven't you? You had the All Depends EP launch, and have anything else?
That's the only one we've done so far.
Yeah.
Although this weekend, 19th, 20th of November, we have 2 shows in the basement. We have a Make That a Take show on Friday night, which is the Blood Red Moon, who have no music available, Caddish, and a new band from Dundee called Speedrunner, who are playing their very first show. That's already sold out. We've limited our tickets to 60. The official capacity in the basement is 108. But once you have band members in there, staff, Make That a Take crew, one of the things that we have coming in is that everyone in Make That a Take and all the staff at Rad Apples have undertaken bystander intervention training with the Good Night Out campaign to ensure safer nightlife. And at all our shows coming forward, we will have a named gig marshal or security person or gig warden, if you will. Essentially just a named person who is part of our collective, who has undergone the training, that can be a go-to person during the gig if there are any concerns about behaviour or antisocial behaviours or individuals, or well, literally anything. If someone's needing a moment to chill out, or is being overwhelmed, or is in a panic, or is uncomfortable in any way, the named person will be the go-to person. We have a chill out spot in Rad Apples and some quiet space where we can take people. So that's one thing that we've proactively done to try and ensure a more positive experience. So between the measures of limiting attendance, limiting gig tickets, asking people to mask up, sanitize and scan in when they arrive, and having the gig warden, we're hoping that with a belt and braces approach, we can do everything we can to keep everybody safe and comfortable and happy in our space. That's
awesome. What was the name of the training you've all done again? Just to put that back out there.
An organisation called the Good Night Out campaign.
Is that a national thing?
It is a national thing. It originated in the queer spaces of London. I forget the name of the original club. But if you can find the resources online, it's goodnightoutcampaign.org.uk, I believe. And we've done 2 training sessions, one with the staff at Rad Apples and one with the folks in the collective from Make That a Take.
Brilliant. That sounds like a sort of a thing that needs to, would be nice to see it all gigs around the country. Just they make everyone feel safe and happy and comfortable. So, what have Make That a Take been up to recently? Obviously, no gigs apart from the All Depends one, but during the pandemic, you seem to release quite a lot of music still. How did that come around?
Well, at the start, we did day rain streams, a couple of series of them, which was basically self-filmed home streaming concerts that we did through Cowpunk TV, which is the, I guess, the Make That a Take YouTube channel. Just search Cowpunk TV and you can find over 400 videos there. Basically, everyone, we had plans. All Depends being a great example. They had US tour plans for last summer, singer Nick being American. And so that didn't happen. So all the plans got shelved. And then basically a whole bunch of folks still had music that was in the vault that we were planning on releasing throughout the year, accompanied by tours and promo and all that jazz. And we were very lucky in that many of the artists that we put out approached us. Goodbye Blue Monday were like, Graham approached me and he was like, I've been doing some home recordings, would you be interested in popping this out as a download? And that became the one take self-indulgent one take woeful's EP. I haven't written any notes for any of this, so that's how that came about. And C Starry were in the midst of writing some new material, and they recorded the EP that came out, the Anatomy EP, which came out physically on Ripcord and digitally through Make That a Take. Contained none of those new songs and was actually written collaboratively in isolation. I'm not entirely sure of the process, but Jan and Claire, I believe, had the bones of the songs and sent them to the drummer, and they were passed around that way. And Jan mixed them himself, and then I was also asked to contribute a vocal to one of the tracks, which I recorded by myself in Rad Apples one afternoon. So that's how that EP came about. The Three Platitudes EPs that came out are all me just farting about on what is actually the iPad that is the till that we use at Rad Apples. So we'd obviously brought all that stuff home, and I just started pissing around on the pad and making beats, and then that kind of grew arms and legs because that became kind of an immersive escape for me, just to like put on the headphones and disappear into beats for hours on end. So it was trying to make the best of a bad situation, really, because we didn't know what was going to occur. And I just remember the last night mopping up in Rad Apples when we were forced to close on by government mandate back in March of last year, and was actually listening to Spanish Love Song's latest record, and I was in there by myself mopping up, and there was a moment in there where I thought, this is it, like the end of the world as we know it has arrived. And thankfully 18 months later we had a sold out All Depends 7-inch launch show to enjoy, with a large period of darkness in between.
Yeah, I've got the All Depends show in London tonight. I'm so excited to see him again.
Well, I've been speaking of Hooligan throughout their travels, and it would appear as though they've been tearing things up and making friends everywhere they go.
So. Yeah, I know. I spoke to Sarah after the Manchester show. Sarah from Shout Louder, and she loved it. Absolutely loved him.
Yeah, they're an incredible band. I think there's something special with those folks.
Just the way they formed as well, like it's sort of in the basement, and it's just such a nice story. And
yeah, it's it's almost like you couldn't make it up. They all went to art school in Dundee. The Duncan of Jordanston College of Art and Design is in Dundee, and all three members of the band. I'm not sure if they knew each other previously, but they coalesced in the basement, all coming to shows, and then their band formed. And then they played their first show in the basement. They played Book Your Rainfest. Hooligan, who plays drums, works at Rad Apples, and it was just the perfect coming together of all things. And they're very proactive, very creative.
Yeah, their videos are fantastic. The way they put them together, you can tell they're art people.
Yeah, for sure. They do all that themselves, and they're a joy to work with because they don't require anything really. They're keen to seek feedback. They're keen to ask questions, and I'm happy to share anything that I can. And it's a joy to do so because they're so great, and they're wonderful people and just very easy to work with.
Good. How did, like, one of the things you released last year was it early this year? I'm not sure, but the Lunar EP, because Make That a Take doesn't really sort of release hip hop as far as I'm aware. So how did that come about?
Well, I have a friendship with Hassan and solidarity with the plight of the Palestinian people, and the fact that I'm a massive hip hop head, which maybe isn't something that comes out in Make That a Take, but the first music that I loved was rave music, dance music, and early classic hip hop music before I was ever introduced or exposed to punk rock. And Hassan and I were chatting, and he sent me the first track. Apologies for my pronunciation. Taf ARF, I believe, was the first track, and I was just super into it. And Hassan and I have been chatting since Triple Sunday came to visit Dundee. I don't even remember when that was, 2018 perhaps. And having just kept an eye on obviously both the situation and the ongoing occupation of Palestine and the ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people, and Hassan giving voice in the UK DIY punk community to this plight, something that Hassan has expressed the reluctance to talk about in the past, and given that we have somewhat the platform, and Hassan was looking to help, was looking to spread this message, to me, it just seemed natural, and I offered to help out, putting out digitally, just because we've developed quite a range over the last few years, and it was something that spoke to me personally, and something that we wanted to show solidarity with. And in the past, we've done benefit shows for medical aid for Palestinians. So once we suggested the idea that it would be a charity solidarity benefit, we decided just to go with it. And I'm very proud of it. It's a great EP. Hassan's message is very strong and unambiguous, and massively important, especially in these increasingly polarized times where language and identity can be weaponized. And I think it was just an important story to share.
I'd agree 100%. Like, I've been lucky. Like, I'm not a hip hop head in the slightest, but I was listening to it, and I've seen him like perform the songs live now a couple of times, and it's a really powerful listen. And like the way he words it is very well, and he words it very well. As an ironic, really bad wording by me there. He words like the messages really well, and it does make you think, and it lets you want to, or makes you want to look into like what's going on out there. Because I'll admit I was quite ignorant to it all. I was till like Hassan started talking about it. I looked into it further, and it's like I'm glad that he has been able to find his voice, I guess, to sort of speak out and say this is this isn't right. What's going on over there? And we need to talk about it and do something about it.
Absolutely.
So,
and it's something that's been ongoing for 100 years, essentially. And something that continues. Hassan obviously is a far better person to talk to about these issues. But even opening up the conversation to consider these ideas, and Hassan does it in a very eloquent way, and as you say, thought-provoking manner, rather than just the screaming preacher, like, you're wrong, fuck you, buddy, that kind of thing, because it's really difficult to change people's minds when, or open people's minds when you're just swearing at them or attacking them, and that's a way that people can bring their walls up. And one of the difficult tasks, especially for marginalized persons and peoples, is to make that voice heard, because when the boot of power is stamping on your face, and the only identity you get is your scream, and the only recognition you get is your suffering, then it's important to take opportunities and platforms to articulate ideas in relatable terms, in human terms, in the terms of story and relatability, rather than just meeting the screams with further screams. To quote Stoy Schnack, I guess, we fight fire with water rather than fire with fire. And especially given where we're at in the UK, and especially in the punk scene, conversation and education and sharing of experience, I believe, is a more effective way of affecting positive engagement than merely screaming and protesting, which of course is a massive part of it. But if you have an ear open to you, then expressing the idea and telling the story in a truthful and honest way will resonate more than pitchforks and divisions.
Have you got any plans at the moment to get him up there to perform the songs in the basement? Or
we have talked about it. I had hoped that we would have been able to do something for Book Your Own Fest this year, but the way that this year's fest has kind of come around, and it's all been a relatively last minute, it's not going to happen this year, but we are hoping to get something together in the springtime.
Excellent. I was talking to Paul from B Sharp recently, actually, just before you announced that Book Your Own Fest was coming back this year. It's like, we were sort of saying, I wonder if you're going to put it on. And I was like, Paul was a bit like, oh, I'm not sure. There's not a lot of Paul, obviously, industry, he knows what's going on. Me being ever the optimist, it was like, Derrick can do it. There's enough bands in Scotland that will happily say, yeah, no problem, we'll come down. So for sort of seeing it coming back, I was so happy to see it coming back. I've been a couple of times, and both times it's just been like one of my highlights of the whole year. It's just such a nice, like, wholesome, like, community event that everyone's come together. Everyone's in really good spirits, and it's just such a nice environment to be in. Like, plus you get, because you get so many, like, the newer sort of younger Scottish bands you get to see who aren't as established in like the whole UK yet, so you get to see a load of them before they sort of travel south, and it's just such a nice time. Obviously it sold out this year, but I'm assuming there'll be a Book Your Own Fest 15 next year. It all going to plan?
Yeah, I think so.
I always worry about speaking too soon sort of these days, but
it pays to be cautious, I guess, at these times.
But if you can ever go, I really recommend it, because it's just such a nice time. Like,
well, that's really lovely to hear, and I thank you for that. It's something that's become essentially our like WrestleMania weekend or something. This year is obviously going to be a little different. It's Book Your Own Fest has always evolved. There was never any huge plan to begin with. We were inspired by like the fest in Gainesville and just all the punk rock fests throughout the world, and that's kind of going back to the roots of Make That a Take, I guess. Is like, I was 23. I think it was actually 23 when Make That a Take started. I just had my 39th birthday. So I've grown up through all this shit, basically. And in 2008, when Book Your Own Fest started, it was actually the first weekender of Joey Terrifying's existence. But it actually goes back further than that. In 2006, a friend of ours called Graham Motion, a member of the punk and hardcore community in Perth and Dundee. Perth and Dundee are just like 20 miles away, so half an hour in the car. He was a musician and drummed in an incredible band called Allergo, who were like hardcore in the kind of Trap Them, Converge, Red Chord kind of way. Incredibly successful band when they were young, played Tea in the Park Festival and all these various things. Graham unfortunately died in 2006, and thereafter his sister Lisa set up a charity called Safe Tay to educate people about water safety in Tayside. Then in 2006, 2007, his friends, the PCC, which I believe stood for the Perth Chaos Collective, it was like kind of the hardcore crew back then, ran a couple of shows that they called Motion Fest, which was an all-day, 2 all-dayers to raise money for safety. I worked at the first one behind the bar and played the second one. And then come 2008, we were putting together the first run of Joey Terrifying gigs with the Hijacks and the Living Daylights from Lincoln. And we were playing Perth on the Saturday, and there was a couple of tours crossing over, I believe. So we ended up with a 6-band bill. And then we're like, well, if we're going to do a 6-band bill, we might as well do an 8-band bill. And if we're going to do an 8-band bill, we might as well do it all day. If we're going to do it all day, we should do it for a charity. And we asked the members of the PCC if they were planning a Motion Fest. They were not. So we asked if they would mind if we did Book Your Own Fest and donated the proceeds to Safety, and they were more than happy to do so, for us to do so. And it's not like there was any division, you know, we're all basically part of the same scene or community, and that's where it started. And we did the first one actually on the 15th of November 2008. The second one happened at the same place called Mucky Mulligan's in Perth. We did the second one in July of 2009. So there was 2009 was the only year there were 2, because we rather over ambitiously were like, oh, we can do 2 of these a year. Pardon me. Then winter 2009 came around, and that's when we first moved to Dundee. Kenny, who ran Cage nightclub in Dundee at the time, was like, Book Your Own Fest should be in Dundee, which didn't seem like a bad move. Like, we promoted loads of shows in Dundee at the time as well. Like, I was living in Perth at the time. So Book Your Own Fest 3 came to Dundee, and that's when it became an annual event. And then we were at Cage for Fest 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, I think. I'm not sure. And then Book Your Own Fest 9, Cage closed. Book Your Own Fest 9 and 10 moved to a couple of different venues in town. One that was called, I don't remember what it was called at the time, actually, Buskers, I think. It's now a place called Church. So 9 and 10 happened there. 11 and 12 happened in the Abertay University Student Union. And 13 was supposed to happen there also. But halfway through the booking of it, whilst Hazel and I were on tour with the Murder Burgers, Hazel was driving that tour and I was playing bass. We got an email saying that the commercial operations of the student union at Abertay University were ceasing to be and that they could no longer host Book Your Own Fest, which left us homeless for the fest. And also during that same tour, found out that Conroy's bar, the bar above Conroy's basement, was also closing. So we had no venue, and we were still on tour at the time. So when we got back, we had a meeting, and that was essentially how Rad Apples came into being. Hazel had the idea for a long time, independently of myself, about having a vegan place. And so we both had these ideas independently of one another previously. And that's when we decided to form the new company. Hazel owns the majority of the company. I'm the junior partner of the company because I legally run Rad Apples. Legally run Make That a Take. So Hazel and I run the company of Rad Apples, and our first show ever, first day ever being open at Rad Apples was the first night of Book Your Own Fest 13 back in 2019. And I think there was less than 8 weeks between the forming of the company and the opening of the space for Book Your Own Fest 13, which may have been the most stressful couple of months of both of our lives. I don't want to speak for Hazel, but it was definitely a stressful experience for me. Imagine. And knowing how stressful I can be as well, I'm confident it was a very stressful experience for Hazel too.
Yeah, it was a bloody wonderful weekend though. So
it was a wonderful, wonderful time. Yeah. But we were all husks of human beings thereafter. And then Rad Apples opened properly the following weekend. And then we were open until the 20th of March to 2020. And we've been back open for 2 months now. It was touch and go as to whether we were going to do a fest. But I think we all felt it was an important date for our community and to try and do something. So we've only sold 50 tickets this year. Those weekend tickets flew out in 14 hours. We're way behind on things, but as you alluded to earlier, we have a lot of Scottish bands. I think there's only one visitor from England this year. It's the Bump Tapes, who are coming up to play the Saturday night at what is going to be the final Uniform show. But we're going to have Stone Thrower headlining on the Saturday night, playing the Legacies LP in full, because I think that's important. It's a wonderful, wonderful LP. They're an incredible band. We have waited a long time for this record to arrive. And, looking forward is more important than looking back. So I think it's going to be a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend. There will be some day tickets available, but they'll be super, super limited, because once we have all the bands in the place, all the Make That a Take crew, all the Rad Apples staff. It's going to be busy. We're not having the 2 stages, full-on stages like we did last time. We'll have an acoustic stage up the stairs this year. That's going to be running in the evenings. Bands downstairs all day. But it's going to be a bit more of a chilled out vibe rather than the manic chaos of 13, which was wonderful, but just not plausible this year for safety, capacity, mental well-being, and all these other things.
That's fair. Like, is anyone on the, obviously the lineup is stacked, and I'm sure you don't want to single like just one band out to like, but I'm going to ask you to anyway, really. Have you got like any, like, I guess, acts on the lineup that you sort of would really encourage people to check out? If like one of the newer acts, I suppose, that people might not be so aware of.
I'm pulling up my list here is what I'm doing. Well, yes, the first one that immediately pops to mind is an artist called Gravedancer. Gravedancer is an American chap called Baker who now lives in Alyth, which is a tiny village in the Strathmore Valley where I grew up and where Broken Stories come from. They're an act on the label as well. They're not playing Fest this year, but they are playing as part of Gravedancer. And Gravedancer is Baker. He comes from Arkansas. He is a singer-songwriter that plays country music. And he's incredible. Country music in the style of like Hank Williams III, Lucero, kind of more alternative country, I guess, rather than sort of Garth Brooks American country pop. It's the realest shit on the block. Really enjoy Gravedancer. We've got a couple of we've got a band playing their first ever show at Fest this year. A new hardcore band from Dundee called Truth Ruiner.
That's such a hardcore band name.
Such a hardcore band name. I've been lucky enough to hear a couple of their demos. It's pretty gnarly, ranging from the kind of tougher end of hardcore to kind of maybe the more melodic hardcore of like Have Heart or that sort of kind of post. Oh, Siri's asking me something. Don't want to. that was intrusive. Yeah, basically, everybody on the bill. There's a band called Echo Machine from Dundee who are playing this Sunday. They're kind of like a synth pop goth band. This pad is doing something funny. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Who I'm a big fan of. Kaddish, always. They are the only band that survive, that still exist from the original Butchering Fest, and they've played every single fest.
Nice.
So they're kind of like the Undertaker of Butchering Fest and Make That a Take. Their streak will never die. Although I don't think I would make a booking decision like having Brock Lesnar pin Kaddish. Butchering Fest 21, I think that would be silly. You talked about younger Scottish punk bands. In that case, I definitely have to give a shout out to Dog Eared. We put out their EP earlier this year. And it's pretty nice to me to hear Dog Eared, because I hear the Kimberley Stakes, I hear the Murder Burgers, I hear all the kind of quote unquote older Scottish pop punk bands now, and it's really nice to hear the influence of my friends on my younger friends.
Yeah,
and
we got to see them when we come up in 2019, and they blew me away. I was so excited to see what they do, and like I think that was after that set I messaged Paul straight away and was like, check out Dog Eared. And I'm sure he's always like, and whenever I see a band I love, or I just first thing I do is like, Paul, this band, get them in London. Then he usually moans at me and says, can't you find some local bands? But
do the show yourself. Yeah, dog-eared are great. They've grown massively over the last couple of years, and that's one of the things that I love most about doing this whole thing is finding new bands and just trying to give them a leg up, really. And I guess on that front, I have to talk about Goodbye Blue Monday as well. They're going to be playing the Friday night of Bucharine Fest, and yeah, it's just going to be a kind of nice family affair. Sees Starry are playing the Friday night as well. There's a new act. Joe from the band The Twistettes has a new project called Minerva Wakes, which is kind of lo-fi, heavy drum and bass techno inspired stuff. Really looking forward to seeing them perform for the first time. I'm also looking forward to playing a set with Shit Gripper that hasn't been announced, but
nice.
we're going to play on the Sunday early on. And yeah, there's a lot of pretty things, cool things going on. Friend Davey Nolan, who hasn't performed at Fest since I think Bucharine Fest 7, is going to be. He used to be best friends and flatmates with Scott Hutchison from Frightened Rabbit, and Fest weekend will be 4 years since Scott passed. And Davey on the Saturday night is going to be performing a set of Frightened Rabbit covers on the acoustic stage. So I think that's going to be a fairly heavy, emotional moment, but something that I'm very much looking forward to. Davey's an incredible musician, and I'm sure that'll be both a privilege and a painful experience for Davey. So very grateful to him for reaching out to suggest that we do that. And I think Fest is the kind of perfect place for that sort of set to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to it all. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. So you mentioned earlier that it was also going to be like the last ever uniforms show.
Yeah.
Which I'm absolutely gutted about because like I can't be there. But I mean, I guess it's an intrusive question, but I'll go for it anyway because journalism. Why are you splitting up?
It's just time. It's time. It's all for love. There's no beef. Basically, Jamie, who plays guitar, and I are the only two original members of Uniforms. We've been doing the band for 10 years. During these 10 years, both Jamie and I have gotten sober. And life, essentially. Jamie and I had a conversation. Jamie has recently gotten married. Our band is spread across 3 cities. Jamie lives in Edinburgh. Jason and I live in Dundee. Ben lives an hour north of Aberdeen. So even getting a band practice together is a military operation. And a lot of the songs are written about or from very dark period in both of our lives, Jamie and I's, and we're proud of what we've done, and it just seems like, as I said, I'm approaching 40, Jamie's married, we're all spread out, and it's almost like we're happy with what we've done. We're still all very close. There's a lot of love in this band, and our friendships and our happiness has become more important than continuing to be a band. Whereas 10 years ago, again, I can only really talk for myself, being in that band was the be all and end all of our existence. It was all I wanted to do. I have sacrificed, like, well, we all have sacrificed a lot of intimacy moments, familial moments, relationship moments, life milestones, pouring all our energies, spare time, money, passion, everything into a project for so long, to then, like, we had the hiatus in the middle, we came back, we made what I believe is like our best record. We've been to places we never expected to visit, let alone play punk rock. We've been very blessed, very privileged as a band, and we decided to play Fest, and Jamie came to pick me up a couple of weeks ago, when we sat and had a chat in the car. He was like, I think I'm done. You should get someone else in to play guitar. And I don't want to play these songs with anybody else other than Jamie, because we wrote the songs on the whole. And I kind of always had it set in my head that when Jamie was done, I would be done too. And it was really only a 5-minute conversation, really. It was like, right, this is the crack. This is how I feel. This is what I want to do. And I was like, yeah, I hear all of that. I don't want to get anybody else in to play guitar. I don't want to be the only original member. I don't want to sing these songs. Some of them I don't really want to revisit much at all. And I guess we have we could always just not do that, but it just seems time. And we figured, or I figured, that Saturday night, Fest, Rad Apples, Fest 14, perfect time, really.
Sounds fair. Sounds fair. Like, or like your highlights of being in uniforms, you think?
Well,
I know we have hard-hitting questions.
Playing in Gainesville, Florida, at Pre-Fest 10 was insane. Flying to America to tour the day after my dad died was nuts. Touring with Cobra Skulls. I remember touring with Loaded 45 in the UK. We were originally planning on going to Europe, but because with them being American, there were visa issues, and we decided just to do 2 weeks in the UK. Wow. And literally pulling the ceiling down in a venue in Rill during it was the last gig that was ever happening at that place, and Loaded 45 literally pulled the ceiling down. That was an experience. Going on stage at the War Zone in Belfast after midnight on St. Patrick's Day, once the sound man in the other band, singer in the other band, had a literal fist fight.
Wow.
Because everybody was so burst. The sound man was absolutely steaming, and the singer in one of the other bands was out of his mind. And Johnny, who played bass for Uniforms, and I ended up doing sound for ourselves on stage. And it got ended up doing sound for ourselves, which we couldn't control on stage, and it was delayed. And within 20 seconds of our set starting, somebody jumped up on the stage and kicked the mic stand into my teeth. Bust lip within 20 seconds of starting. That sticks out. Playing Pooza Fest was insane. And at the end of our set, these two chaps, American chaps, I forget their names, I'm afraid, but they came to us and were like, we've driven 12 hours just to come and see Uniforms, and they were down the front singing along every word, and that just blew my mind.
That's amazing.
But mostly, I guess the highlight would be just all the incredible people that we've met, and all the hospitality and kindness that we've been shown. And we really lucked out, you know. Our fourth gig ever was in Gainesville, and that's where we met folks that would take us on tour of the States and form relationships that abide to this day. And it's just altogether been a positive experience. I think the first half of our existence, like 2011 to 2015, was frantic and desperate and chaotic and difficult and emotional and reckless and dangerous and insane and ill-advised and all these other things. Whereas 2017 onwards, we've kind of taken things a bit more on our own terms. We've done less, but more. It kind of feels like not playing. Like we played something like 400 shows or something in the first half or the first part of our existence. We've definitely done less than 100 since we reformed, and that's okay. And part of the whole thing about being in uniforms, you know, or doing uniforms in the second part of our existence was we'll do the things that we want to do, rather than the things we feel obligated to do, and that includes breaking up.
Fair.
With apologies to Bev and Andy at TNS, if you've still got some records to sell, I'm really sorry.
That is a superb record. Everyone should go and buy it, because I still listen to that a lot now. How long has it been out now? Must be 2 years, 3 years?
I think it came out in September of 2018, so 3 years now, I think.
Yeah, I still listen to it so much. So
thanks.
good. Like I first heard you when you released the Pink Couch EP, which at the time was going to be your last collection of songs. Then I was supposed to come up to book your own fest to see you. I came up, but mega buses happened and were very late, and I missed the set. So I thought I was never going to get the chance to see you, which may be sad. But then luckily, you reformed and you did the MPF after party in 2017, I think. Is it 17? Maybe 18.
One of those years.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Then in that sort of weekend, Random Hand played a comeback show and Lightyear played a comeback show and Chewing on Tin Phil played, and that uniform set at the very end of the Sunday night was my highlight.
Oh wow.
I had such a good, I was on my last legs, but it was such a good time. I still think about that, and I don't think it was a massive crowd at the end, because obviously it must have been nearly 2 o'clock in the morning, it felt like.
Yeah, I think we went on stage at 1:45 in the morning.
Yeah, but it was just the people who were there, they were really, really there for it and were really into it. And it was just a really nice way to finish what was a really nice weekend. And I still have fond memories of that.
That was a wonderful show. I couldn't see anything. I could see the first few rows of people. I'm pretty blind, let alone when we're rocking out in those bright lights. But that was so much fun, and any excuse to play a Nirvana cover as well.
Yeah,
we didn't rehearse that. We just I think we'd maybe played it once, and just kind of winged it.
That's why
it was really good fun. And actually, I think that must have been 2018, because it was that night that Bev came up to me and was like, "We got to do a uniform 7-inch." And I was like, well, I actually have this idea. And we recorded Reasons to Breathe with Ant Booth at Kesbury Studios. And everything about that experience was just wonderful. I've been friends with Boothy for a long time, and since Joey T and the emos. And it was just really nice it's a really nice environment to make music. And I think we're all really happy that 7-inch could come out. And I don't want to give anything away, although I guess I probably am. But the 2012 EP, which I guess is known as the Spectacular Terry Butcher EP, and the Pink Couch EP are going to be coming out on a super limited edition lathe cut vinyl. I think we're only going to make somewhere between 30 and 50 copies. So that's something that's going to be coming. I think we'll do a pre-order for that beginning next month. Reason being is next year it will be 10 years since the Terry Butcher EP came out. It'll also be 10 years since my dad passed. That EP was only ever made on CD. And the Pink Couch EP was assigned a Make That a Take catalogue number, Make That a Take vinyl 9, but never actually came out.
Oh.
The first 2 tracks were mastered for vinyl. And once we had decided that we were breaking up, I decided, I was quite upset at the time, and I figured at that point there was no point in spending the money in pressing a 7-inch for a band that's not going to exist. But I'm also kind of annoyed at that because being I wouldn't say I'm an archivist of any sort, but there's something incomplete there that irritates me from being a vinyl collector. So we're going to do a super limited run of those 12 inches. Anxiety Attack Records are going to produce them for us. So that's something that will be the final Uniforms release, and it's just something I want to do really to say thank you to my bandmates. I want to get these EPs pressed and give one to Jamie and Johnny and Luke and Chick and Ben and Aid and everyone that's ever been in Uniforms. Just a nice thing to kind of round things out, because I guess if there's one thing that annoys me or I regret, is that we never actually did make that full-length LP, even though we have so many songs kicking about. So a 12-inch limited edition hand-cut vinyl is going to be the way to round things out, I guess.
I will keep an eye out for that, because I will be first in the queue to get one.
$29.99 limited edition. Buy one now.
It's all right, Emma. If you're listening and you need a bit of Christmas present idea. They would say one of my other big uniforms. I only think I got to see you 4 times, but one of them was at Do It Together Fest, which I helped. I say helped very loosely. I was involved in putting on at the New Crossing with Paul B. Sharp and Sarah Shout Louder.
That was a great time.
It was because I think for me and Sarah especially, we were it'd be good to have them Make That a Take representation down there, because it was a community coming together kind of thing, and I think Make That a Take is a really good example of that. So it was so cool to have sort of you guys and Goodbye Blue Monday and even Forever and Clean you've worked with in the past, and to get those bands down there. I'm so excited for their new album when it comes out.
That's an incredible band.
Seems like such a long time coming, but to have Uniforms come down and play, because otherwise you don't. How many times did you come down to London? Especially since you came back twice, maybe.
Yeah, your show was definitely our last London show. I think we played London maybe a total of 6 times.
Yeah, because I was at the EP launch show as well, which was a really fun night that Ollie put on at the inn.
Of course, yeah. So Ollie actually put on our first London show. The first show we played in London was Hogmanay, New Year's Eve, 2011, with a band called the Rocco Lampones.
Oh, wow.
From London. And the gig happened in a squatted nursing home somewhere in London. I have no idea where. Jamie and I drank the entire way from Dundee. I lived in Perth at the time. I got picked up. We drank the entire way from Dundee to London. I was absolutely shit-faced by the time we arrived, and remember very little about the show apart from the fact that it was very sloppy. We had a pretty good time. We definitely had a fun night. The show itself was chaos. So that was the first time, and then we played Kingston on the Cobra Skulls tour. I actually lost my voice at that show. I remember, I could remember almost the exact moment where I strained my vocal, because that tour happened. We left for that tour on the 4th of May, and my dad had died on the 27th of April, which was the previous Friday. I identified his body on the Tuesday. We had our EP release show on the Friday, and then we played our first show with Cobra Skulls in Derby on the Sunday. Did a week of dates with them. The London show was the Saturday night. That's where I lost my voice. We played Liverpool the next night, and Johnny sang. So we played more of the fast, shouty stuff rather than the melodic stuff. Came home, had one day at home. My dad's funeral was the next day. And that's when we flew to the States. So played London twice before then, once on the Loaded 45 tour, which was also at New Cross during an all-dayer. I think it was a full week. I don't remember if it was an all-dayer or a fest, like a weekend-long thing. I was still when I was drinking as well, so the memories are foggy. But yeah, I think about 6 or 7 times we played London, the last of which was Do It Together Fest, and that was great. Like, to have folks in London singing along to our songs and dancing around and be so welcome was a lovely time indeed.
Well, it was like, I mean, I'm quite biased because I helped put it on, but it was like, it was like, we said it quite a lot. It's like quite a nice, because obviously we didn't know what was to come, so to have that event, it felt that a bit more special when we realized like every other festival was not going to happen.
Absolutely.
So it was cool. What else? What have we got coming up? Anything else from Make That a Take coming up that you can talk about?
Well, the book is starting to fill up for shows. We've started taking some third-party hires for Conroy's Basement and Rad Apples. Make That a Take wise, I guess I've already said that one of our next releases is going to be that limited edition Uniforms record. There's an All Depends LP coming. There are a couple of new Goodbye Blue Monday things in the pipeline. I think we're definitely going to be working with C Starry a bit more going forward. Hopefully for their new record. Very much looking forward to seeing them on the Friday night of Book Rainfest. I think I might be performing the song that I collaborated with them on, although I'm not sure yet. Don't think we're going to get a chance to rehearse it either because they stay in Aberdeen, and that was only 2 weeks or so, less than 2 weeks till Fest. So yeah, New All Depends, Last Uniforms, New Goodbye Blue Monday, and we're going to continue to support all the artists that we work with. Couldn't recommend Concept Car highly enough. Obviously, the Stone Thrower LP has just arrived in its physical form, so we're going to be doing some more shows, and just doing our usual kind of take it as it comes. There's not too many plans in place. Like, I tend to have like a vague skeleton of an idea, and we take things as they come. But I feel like we've got quite a lot on our plate for the moment, stabilizing things and getting back into the habit of live shows. As I guess our immediate kind of concern, but at Rad Apples, I also have a pop-up shop, which we sell all the Make That a Take stuff. sell a lot of pamphlets, moving into the realm of radical bookshop, which is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. And we're starting to get that in place. Hazel and the rest of the Rad Apples crew have been very supportive of that. But Make That a Take will continue to evolve as it does. Rad Apples is obviously our business, Hazel and I's business, which takes up a lot of time and energy. So Make That a Take follows the Rad Apples example. So not that we're hierarchical, but Rad Apples comes first.
As it should, because you need to live.
Absolutely. We have a wonderful staff team. We've had some wonderful support from our community. We can't thank everybody enough. And Make That a Take, the fact that Make That a Take still exists in any way, shape, or form after 15 years just kind of blows my mind, because there was never, as I said, there was never any plan really to begin with, apart from because I was 23 years old, and it was like, me, listen to me, like, this is our awesome band. And it's like, well, the reason that people didn't pay attention or didn't care is because we were not an awesome band, and the music that I was making was not great. And like, that's not the point. Like, the point was we were doing it ourselves and being scrappy, young, arrogant, ignorant punks. Even though we were aspiring to do our best or whatever. I kind of feel now that maybe in a position to act upon these ideals that we held in youth. And I guess if anarchism is a verb or doing word or something that you do, well, the phrase anarchism is a thing that you do comes from David Graeber. And I guess if we're using that as kind of a springboard or an inspirational jumping off point, then hopefully we are getting better at what we do, and perhaps now beginning to be able to capitalize on some of the, not capitalize in the economic and financial way, but make use of the tools that we have developed over the last 15 years to help provide a platform for other people and other causes and other persons. Because I guess it's a shift in the dichotomy for me as well, because Make That a Take was formed as a vehicle for our own music, essentially. And while Tragical History Tour will abide, like, I guess I'm never going to stop playing acoustically. I'm always going to play music. It no longer feels like a primary focus like it did. I no longer live a peripatetic existence where I'm answerable only to myself and my ego. I need to keep that ego in check, and I'm very lucky that I have wonderful people around me. Definitely that, and hopefully just aim to take all these learning experiences and apply them in a positive way going forward. How that's going to manifest, I don't really know, but to me anyway, while tinged with sadness, there's a sense of accomplishment and happiness with what we've done with uniforms and what we managed to do. And I guess now Make That a Take changes in function for me. But I guess that change in function has been happening for a long time. And I guess for me, it's, I don't know, I never planned on being like a label boss or like anything like that. I don't think of myself as a boss in terms of Make That a Take or Rad Apples or anything like that. We're just humans working together, and I'm very lucky that the humans that I'm surrounded with inspire me to want to be better and do better. And if there's anything that I can do personally that, or through Make That a Take, that can be beneficial or provide a platform for other artists that I care about and other causes that are relevant to our collective wellness, then I would consider that a job well done.
Good. I've said at the start, like, how much I respect everything you've done, and like Make That a Take Records is just a quality like record label for if you want really, really good bands, varied bands, and like you should. Scotland is just a breeding ground of amazing punk rock music, and I think Make That a Take do put out the very best of it. So all the listeners, you go to their Bandcamp page, buy some stuff, support them, discover some new bands as well, and just help keep Make That a Take going as well, I suppose, because all DIY labels, they can only exist as long as people are still supporting them. So yeah, please go and do that.
There's 127 releases available on the Bandcamp, many of which are free, pay what you want. You've essentially got the entire history of Make That a Take Records up there. You could also check out our website, makethatatakerecords.com. I have a blog that I write at writeyourownzine.wordpress.com, which is also basically another living document of the Make That a Take history. Facebook, Twitter, Insta, all that jazz. All the money that comes in to Make That a Take goes back into other projects, be it records, live shows, supporting folks on the road. Just sent all the bands $100 yesterday from their t-shirt sales to help them out on the road. And as you said, they play London tonight, but that'll be past tense by the time this podcast goes up, I guess.
Afraid so.
But they'll be back next year. I think they're planning on another UK jaunt in the spring. I might join them. I'm not sure. I think I'll be down. I think I'll do some shows at some point myself in the spring, Tragical History Tour style. I've started to think about a new EP, more details of which I will discuss at a later point, but it's going to be all new stuff. It's kind of a concept almost, which is a little dangerous, but I don't want to talk too much about that because there's not all that much to talk about. And B, nothing's written or recorded yet. It just exists in my brain. But you will certainly be one of the first person to know, Colin.
Oh, good. I look forward to it because I always enjoy listening to Tragical History Tour as well. So,
yeah, thank you.
I think before we finish up, then Rad Apples, your or Hazel's vegan fast food restaurant. What are your opening hours for the folk in Dundee?
Well, we have just begun opening for 5 days now rather than 4. So we open Wednesday through Sunday from noon until 11 p.m. on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and we close at 10 p.m. on a Sunday. But Friday and Saturday, premium gig nights, we're open noon till midnight. All our seitan burgers, beef and chicken style, are made by hand in-house by our chef crew. Everything in Rad Apples is 100% vegan. We're not tied to any breweries or beer companies, so all our main beers are supplied by 71 Brewing, which is a local Dundee-based independent brewers. We don't stock any Coca-Cola products, PepsiCo products, or anything like that. We serve teas, coffees, burgers, hot dogs, fries, sides, pickles, pies, cupcakes, the whole bunch. So Rad Apples is an independent vegan diner, bar, music venue. You can find us on the socials as well. It's just Rad Apples Dundee, mostly Insta and Facebook. We don't have a website yet, but that will be up soon. We do all sorts of things. We try to be as accessible as possible. All our staff have done the Good Night Out training. We have robust, we have the house rules, that have existed forever, and work with the Good Night Out campaign. There's signage throughout our venue about bathrooms and conduct and behaviour. We have them make that a tick pop-up. We have quiz nights. We have board games nights. We have meeting spaces. I would urge everyone to check it out. And obviously, if you're in Dundee, come and wrap your gums around a cowpunk burger or a murder burger or a top roaster or any of these things.
I know we're keen to get up there. Like next time we have an excuse to be in Scotland, we'll be there. I know Emma's especially very keen to come give it a try.
You'll be welcome anytime. Just let us know, and we put a table aside for you. All bookings by Facebook Messenger, please.
Excellent, will do. All right. I think if there's anything else you want to sort of plug or talk about, or shall I? I'm really, really terrible at wrapping these up. I've done day 20 something. So I guess thank you very much for hanging out this afternoon.
Thank you very much for
telling the stories.
Me, Colin. I would urge folks to, I guess the last thing to plug is this year, Make That a Take, will be supporting RASAC, which is the Women's Rape and Sexual Assault Support Service, Dundee Food Bank, and Dundee Together to support Afghan refugees. I would encourage folk to check out the hashtag 16 Days of Activism that concerns the ending of violence against women. Check out that hashtag on both Instagram and Twitter. And also for folks local, I guess there's local chapters popping up all over the country, but I would also urge folk to check out the Reclaim the Night campaign. In Dundee, there will be a march on Thursday the 25th, which is the night before Fest. I would encourage folks to join that if they can. Check out these hashtags on the internet. That's 16 days of activism and end violence against women. And I would just encourage folks to both check them out and support if you can. And hopefully one day we'll put a stop to violence.
Yeah, excellent. I'll put links for all of that stuff in the commenty bio-y bit underneath these things. So definitely please go and check them out, because it's like most of the things we've said today, this kind of stuff is the most important. So go and check that out. And they'll say thank you for talking. Hopefully see you soon. I hope Book Your Own Fest is another brilliant weekend, and I'm sad to be missing it. And hope if anyone's there and fancies filming stuff for me so I can watch later, I will appreciate that. And I could put you video of the week. What an incentive.
We'll send everything your way.
Thank you. So cheers very much, and we'll speak soon. Bye.
Thanks.